Should these CUPs be paying into some kind of a fund that's going to help offset the fact that they're taking away the housing? I'm not saying they shouldn't have a right to do with their property, but at the same time, you know, teachers can't find housing, doctors can't find housing, people are leaving. What's going to be left here? It's a huge problem. So I don't think that this should be passed. I don't think any of them should be passed. We have an election coming up. You should hold off until after the election. And the city council that's coming in needs to address this. If we don't address it, keep pushing it down the road, eventually everybody's going to be, boy, we should have done something when we had the chance. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Stacy King, 107 Butaloo. And the biggest thing I have to say is that I feel that these properties are unique in the sense that these were two houses originally on one property, and it was split. And so, because of the way the split is, the houses are very close together. From their backyard, where they are now going to put a jacuzzi, they can see over our fence into my kitchen. They have to walk down the side of my house to get into the front door because there's no front entrance off the street. So every time people have to go through, they got to go down the side of the houses and disturb us to get to his place. So I'm firmly against it, and I hope that you'll consider my letter, and if you have any questions, I'm here.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh.
Good afternoon, Steve Johnson, 105 Udalau Avenue. Spoke to you a little bit last week. Welcome back here. Anyway, just to give you a little more background on myself and kind of what my intentions are and some ideas that I have. One, yes, I do have another property. I have 224 Whitley. Has about 55 stairs to get to the top. I bought it about 2 years ago. It is a vacation rental. I've had no complaints. I have great neighbors with Grant and Rita. Behind me is Cliff. I've had zero complaints. I monitor things very closely. I'm a very active owner. You know, I want to make it clear that I'm not some foreign person investing or some holding company bringing, you know, millions of dollars and just sending representative. I am involved. I'm very active in watching this. You know, as far as the community, I was married here in Descanso in 2012. I grew up coming here. I'm not like a foreigner to the island, so I really do see myself growing in this island and for long time years and hopefully retiring later on. I've joined the chamber. I'm very active over town at Rotary, and now we're talking with Rotary at the last chamber mixer on what we can do to maybe do a joint event with the Rotary District and out here. So I really do plan on growing businesses in here, not just under the vacation rental as a business. I see the vacation rental as my homes. For this one particularly, it's really good for my parents who are over 80 because it is ADA accessible. So a few things I am going to be doing, though, and I already do on my other one, is I do have exterior cameras. So when people check in, I look at how many people are coming in. I check to see if I see that they're overpopulating. I call them and I catch them on it. Thankfully, we've only had it happen a few times over at our other property, but it honestly has happened. And obviously, there is always going to be some issue. I can't say here there's never going to be an issue because that's just impossible. I can do what I can to mitigate it. I put reminder emails that people. Upon booking, upon 10 days arrival, and day of arrival, I remind people that they're in a residential community. For this particular one, because we are looking at putting a golf cart too, I'm going to have them sign a rental agreement. I also going to be putting a product in here called Noise Aware that basically measures the decibels, and as people, if they're starting to talk too much or put loud music, I'll get alerts. I can even set it so it automatically sends a message to the guests that, hey, we've received a message that you may be too loud. So it doesn't record their audio, it just measures the decibels only, so there's no privacy concerns there. I am planning on buying an electric golf cart versus a gas golf cart just to reduce noise. I put a Wi-Fi lock in there so I can change the code to restrict access. This is what I do in my other one too. It works really well, so that I don't have any security issues there. As far as the hot tub goes, you know, I put the hot tub in right as we moved in, so I didn't want to, and I could have just waited until after I got the permit and threw it in, but I made it really clear what my intentions are, what I'm doing. That also I have Wi-Fi control, so I can actually shut jets off, turn the temperature down, and as I told Stacy, and I would hold to this, if it does become an issue, I'll lock it down. I absolutely will. Next up, this area is not completely non-transient. Up on the upper side of me, 103 Butelau is a transient rental. It's called Hill on the House. From what I can see, it is active. It has a lot of bookings in the summer, and I can see that there's breaks in between it. It does not show on your saturation map. I'm guessing it has a grandfathered CUP. I know that my property was also originally a vacation rental, and it lost it from not being used. But it is absolutely a vacation rental currently. It's on Airbnb. I have the listings here. It's the one right on the upward side of my house. So there is not that there's never been a transient rental in this area. There is one also across the street. So that's not new. The other thing I would be willing to do as a concession to help mitigate kind of the issue is I know our max is 8. I'm okay with reducing that to 6. And if we can approve it based on 6, that's fine with me. There is 3 bedrooms, but 6 will be just fine. So hopefully that can help with mitigating it to a certain degree. Anyway, I always myself am available. I've given my numbers. I'm accessible. I really do try to be actively involved. I just met with her husband to kind of go through the whole setup in the area, and we talked about some changes we might be able to do to help even mitigate it less. Including where she talked about that fence looking over. We will put a new fence in there that's higher, so it avoids anyone being able to look over. I've already agreed to that, no problem. So if there's any questions, I'm here for questions. Otherwise, I thank you for your consideration.
You said there is a golf cart associated with the property?
There is one there now. I'm going to sell the one that's there now, but yes. My intention is to have a golf cart part with the property in the off-street spot. But a new one. I'm going to put an electric one. The one that's there now is way too loud. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else wish to speak for, against, or provide information? Seeing no one? Anybody electronic?
I have nobody.
Public hearing's closed. General discussion or motion?
I have a question for staff. Rocio, because we just went over the number, we spent a couple of years going through this vacation permit process and how many that are current and paying in the city of Avalon. Do you have offhand that? I don't recall the total number.
The total number of active transient rental licenses, including hotels, is about 435. There is a total of around 25 within Bahia Vista, and over 100 in Hamilton Cove. So I would say within the flats, and which including lower terrace, upper terrace, and the hills, I would say about 200.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make the comment that Dave brought up kind of bigger picture general policy issues, which we're not going to consider. We've been doing that for a couple of years, and what we have in front of us was the result of about 2 years worth of deliberation plus. So that's the policy in front of us, and we're going to act on what the city policy is. That can always get amended and changed, and if we have new elected officials, they can make recommendations for us to review it again. But right now, we're looking at what's in front of us. The other thing is, I was just thinking that if someone did make a recommendation to approve, it sounded like a 6-person max was suggested to kind of lower the impact, and also the addition of a privacy fence for the neighbors. So those 2 parts seem like a good addition, if minimum, if there is a motion made to approve. And I don't know if there are any other.
And Bruce, are you up to speed on CUPs getting replaced with vacation rental permits?
They're business licenses now, not land use permits.
So they don't run with the property.
Oh, okay.
The old stuff does.
I think I knew that, but it doesn't apply to this one anyway, but okay.
Yeah, so basically,
It does apply to this because this doesn't become a CUP in perpetuity. It is an annual renewable permit.
That's a great change. And just on the general stuff, well, if it comes back for discussion of the overall workings of the vacation rentals, I think Dave's got a great idea to start with, that, you know, they should be kicking in towards a housing fund. I say that, but at the same time, the city hasn't done a fabulous job developing the property that they have. But in theory, it sounds like a great idea.
I just wanted to interject really quick. So this whole transition from CUP to transient rental license was going through a kind of test phase. So staff is diligently working to kind of monitor any kind of changes that brings about, and we'll definitely bring it back to discussion for the public, the commission, and council once we've been able to make some findings on that. But now I agree with Eric. We should stick to what policy is currently active and use that to analyze this application.
Thank you, Susanna. And also on that note that you just said with regarding policies, there is procedures in place for any kind of complaints. It could be, but it has to be written and turned into the planning department, because if it's not written and turned into the city, then we can't act on them not complying with the application. So there's 3 warnings, written warnings, and if they get 3 warnings, then they have to come back in front of us and we can revoke the license. So there is something in place if it's getting out of hand. But a lot of people do say that there's problems all over town regarding vacation rentals and noise, but I ask every single time, has anybody put anything in writing and submitted it to the city? And every time there is a no. And we as commissioners cannot do anything or revoke a permit unless it is in writing and submitted. So you have that recourse as well.
Anybody wish to make a motion?
I move for approval with a limit of 6 and the addition of a privacy screen around the jacuzzi.
Correct. Okay. Along the property line and in addition to the general requirements recommended by staff.
Yes.
Okay. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and second. Any discussion?
I understand everyone's concern. Dave, I know what you're talking about, but the problem is people are buying these homes from the mainland and they're going to come use them too, so they're never going to rent them out year round to you. I mean, the values, you can't purchase one and make it pan out by renting it to a local, and that's kind of the problem out here is the property values are so high that when they get bought, people buy them and then they want to use them, and then when they're not using them, they want the city.
Wait, we're not opening the public hearing again, and that's a policy issue, not issue about this application.
I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, if you're going to buy a property out here for, $1 million, you're not going to be able to rent it out to make it pay for itself. It's never going to happen.
Right, and that's a policy issue. We're not,
Okay.
that was part of the discussion that developed this policy.
Quite a bit of discussion.
Yeah, and it went, and believe it or not, changing it from a land use permit to a business license
Was a big step.
was huge for the city. And okay, any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Call for a vote, please.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Glass?
Yes.
Chairman Hewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Furtick?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the revised, or on the updated, it's number 2 on the updated agenda. And I lost Rosia. Oh, she's getting, hold on a moment while others come back. Is anyone
Abstain.
abstaining from?
There's no members abstaining for this item.
I tried to abstain from this one, but then I talked to Rosia and found out I was wrong, so.
So
I'm back
for,
to this one.
Okay, so we had
Do
one
have any
attempt.
people that have to recuse for 316 Clemente?
Okay, everyone's here. So I have none.
Paul,
can't
can you
hear
hear
what-
me?
I think we can barely hear you.
Okay.
Better.
Was I missed the part of the discussion. Does anyone need to recuse from 316 Clemente based on conflict of interest?
No,
None.
no members of the commission would need to abstain for this item.
Okay, so Rocio, it sounds like you spoke with one of our commissioners and it was determined there was no issue, there was no proximity issue or any other potential disqualifying financial interest.
That is correct. For the following
Okay.
item, there will be a couple commissioners recusing themselves, just not for this one.
All right.
So item number two. Item number two is requesting a transient rental license and coastal development permit to allow the renting or leasing of a room with or without table boards in a dwelling unit for periods of fewer than 30 consecutive days duration at 316 Clemente Avenue. The owner and applicant is Vicky Pierce. Applicant is present in the audience. The property is located within the high-density residential zone. The property is a two-story property that consists of 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and is developed with a residential use consistent with the general plan and is allowed under the 2022 growth policy. The transient rental impact statement submitted by the applicant indicates that the property has been owner-occupied on a full-time basis and has not been rented for periods of more than 30 consecutive days to the same occupant at any time in the prior 2 years. The property manager for the unit is listed as Rad Bowman. Contact information is included within the staff report. The subject property and all surrounding properties are developed with single and multi-residential units. The requested transient rental license does not involve any physical changes to the existing residence that would adversely affect or be materially detrimental to adjacent uses, buildings, and structures. Upon analysis, the saturation map indicates that oversaturation will not occur because less than 50% of the properties within Clemente Avenue do not hold CUPs or transient rental licenses. Upon proposal, the proposed project is categorically exempt under Section 15305 of the State CEQA Guidelines, minor alterations in land use limitations, which do not result in change in land use or density. The project requires a coastal development permit under Section 9/8102B2V of the Avalon Municipal Code. The project is not within the 300-foot appealable zone. Staff has not received any letters in favor or in opposition of approval or denial for the transient rental license. Staff is recommending that the Planning Commission find the project categorically exempt under Section 15305 of the State CEQA Guidelines, minor alterations and land use limitations, adopt the findings necessary to support approval of the coastal development permit, including that the project is not within the 300-foot appealable zone, adopt the findings necessary to approve the transient rental license, and find the application is allowed under the 2022 growth policy. This concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff before we open the public hearing? Okay. Open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to testify or provide information? Seeing none. Anybody online?
Nobody online.
Online? Okay, I'll take that as not someone actually here. And close the public hearing. Any discussion or motion?
This is for a total of 6 in this property?
That's a question for staff.
For staff.
So it's a 2-bedroom property, so yes, it would be 2 per bedroom with an additional 2 with a total of 6 guests.
Okay.
One of the pages from here, it says limiting guests to 4 adults. From Vicki Pierce. It's the last page.
I don't have
It says limiting guests to 4 adults or family of 5 if with children.
So it sounds like that's what they're,
That sounds like what they're asking for.
right. So we could clarify that in the motion.
I think if she wants 5, we should give her 5. Okay, that would be my motion incorporating the staff findings and conditions.
I mean, you guys
So a
all read,
maximum
I'm not
of
the only
5.
one reading it
Maximum
this way, right?
5.
Yeah.
You
it's
guys all
pretty
say the
clear.
same thing? Okay.
So-
Okay, I just don't want to, yep.
A maximum of 5 plus the city conditions. Move to, motion to
Motion for
approve it.
approval.
Not to interrupt your motion, I've got a quick question for staff. In some of the written language here, the homeowner makes reference to the fact that when she purchased the property, it had a CUP, is that correct?
Yes, so the property did hold a conditional use permit for transient rental. Unfortunately, due to not complying with the standard conditions of approval for 10 years, the property was revoked.
Okay.
Okay. Is there
I
a
will
second?
second it.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Seeing none? Rocio, please count the votes.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Glass?
Yes.
Chairman Hewitt?
Yes.
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Furtick?
Yes.
And Commissioner Putnam? Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm really abstaining on the last one.
Me too.
For our next item, number 3, Commissioner Say and Commissioner Furtick will be abstaining.
Rocio, can we have a note on the record for the reason for refusal, please?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Commissioner Say will be abstaining due to financial conflict of interest, and Commissioner Furtick will be abstaining due to proximity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a staff report, please.
All right, for item number 3, we're going to be transitioning away from the transient rentals and considering a request for approval of a coastal development permit and site plan for the remodel of an existing multifamily dwelling into a single-family dwelling categorically exempt from environmental review under existing facilities. The applicant is new owner Judy Brilhart. She's been assisted by Joe Say to kind of formulate her preliminary construction plans. The location of the project is 320 Descanso Avenue within the flats in the high-density residential zone. And we have a pretty detailed scope of work provided by the applicant on the second page of the staff report, but overall, they're looking to remodel. It's currently classified as a duplex. They want to make it into a single-family dwelling. There will be no change in bedrooms overall, but one bedroom from the first floor will be going to the second floor. Net change is 0. The remodel would also include the installation of a rooftop deck, which does not qualify as a story, so it does not require a variance, and it's within the height envelope of that area. The project complies with the annual growth policy in that it's not creating any new bedrooms or units, which would lead to no change in residential intensity. And I've conferred with Southern California Edison that it is exempt from a water allocation. And the project complies with almost all of the development standards of the zone. But staff is recommending that the Planning Commission find it exempt from needing a variance for the non-conforming setbacks in compliance with Municipal Code Section 9-8.703. A non-conforming building or structure may be continuously maintained provided there is no alteration, addition, or enlargement of any area, space, or volume of the structure, except for the following. The premises are located on a lot which is less than 2,200 square feet and in the area depicted in Appendix A. The nonconformity relates to parking, setbacks, or height, and the alteration or improvements result in an increase of less than 50% of square footage. So the lot is substandard size, it's less than 2,200 square feet. It is within the flats, otherwise known as Appendix A. The nonconformity only relates to setbacks, and the proposed improvements do not result in an increase of 50% of the square footage. Staff is recommending that the commission find it exempt from CEQA under existing facilities. And then after some correspondence with the Coastal Commission, we determined that it would be needing a coastal development permit because it is leading to a change in intensity of use. In residential structures, intensity of use is measured by dwelling units per lot typically. This structure was originally a single-family dwelling that illegally added on a second unit, and the owners legalized the second unit by classifying it as a density bonus unit, so it was at twice the allowed density of its site. But the executed agreement for the development agreement has since expired, and they have no obligation to maintain any of those conditions. So right now, it currently sits as twice the amount of allowed density as that zone typically would allow, so this would bring it back into compliance with that as well. It does happen to be in a floodplain designated by FEMA, so any work would need an elevation certificate to be turned into staff before the issuance of the building permit. Does anybody have any questions?
Looks like no questions for staff. We'll open the hearing. Hearing's opened. Anybody wishing to provide comments, testify for or against? Seeing no one in the audience. Anybody electronically?
I have no one online.
Okay.
I've got a question for Joe.
Would Joe please come to the front and give your name and address?
Joe Say, 230 Beacon Street, Avalon.
In looking at what's physically there now and what you're proposing to put there, it doesn't really appear that you're changing the footprint of the structure at all.
Very little. We're actually going to be reducing the rear, providing golf cart parking, and we're going to be pulling the front to the 11-foot setback. Instead of 10 foot, we're going to actually move it 11 foot off the front so that we don't impact the neighbor.
So that doesn't really trigger a variance, does it not, to staff?
Some of the side setbacks are being infilled, and then there's expansion on the back as well. But we're still recommending that the planning commission find it exempt based on that code section.
Exempt of a variance?
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've closed the hearing. Discussion or motion?
Make a motion to build it.
Move to approve, and those are based on city recommendations, yes, finding the variance, et cetera. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none? Rocio, please.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Glass?
Yes.
Chairman Hewart?
Yes.
And Commissioner Putnam? Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Oh, I guess one. Get the oldie.
Have a nice day.
Is that it?
That's it.
Oh, yeah, we already did number 8.
We're just bringing back in.
We did it out of order
They're
last
bringing
time.
everybody back in, but I think Bruce may have split.
Yeah, I think you did.
He doesn't like to stick around.
It's traumatized after last week.
Okay, so I believe we're on items of discussion. Yeah, okay.
I have an item of discussion, and it may require Isaac to pay attention here and guide me in the right direction here. So if memory serves me correct, we had a consent calendar item number 2, to have remote teleconferencing. Can we bring that back for reconsideration, Isaac?
Actually,
You couldn't tonight, so the next opportunity, the city approved those findings that allow the city to do essentially what it's doing tonight, which is to have a remote meeting hybrid. So, people are participating via council chambers, and they're also being afforded the opportunity based on those findings to call in using Granicus. So it wasn't re-agendized for tonight's continued public hearing. So the next opportunity for the Planning Commission to consider it will be at the regularly scheduled April meeting.
Okay.
And if at that time the Planning Commission chooses, they can choose not to make the findings. And in that instance, the Planning Commission meeting would be solely available to those that came to chambers.
yeah.
Thank you.
I have an idea. Because really electronic participation is no longer necessary, that I'd recommend that we not have that be added to the consent calendar at the next meeting, as opposed to having it on there and then not going forward with it. So the next regular
Chair, I would recommend, just because it's not an item on today's agenda for the continued public hearing, I think any sort of direction like that would have to come when it was agendized, and then the commission could make the decision whether or not it wanted to make the findings or not.
Okay, but
I think what you're saying is take it off the consent calendar and put it in a general.
Well, let's go ahead and leave it on the consent calendar until it's not consented to enough times over the course of the future. So we'll just go ahead and do it normally, and then we can decide at the next meeting if we want to pull it off the consent calendar like we normally do and approve it or not. Never mind. Okay. I thought I had a great idea. You too. Okay. Any planning director report?
Planning assistant report. I just wanted to clarify, we're aware of the technical difficulties that we've been going through in the past couple of meetings, and we've been working with the administrative staff to come up with some solution and other options for online public engagement, and we apologize for any inconvenience that's caused you with the meeting times and everything.
Okay.
But we're working on it.
Thank you very much. Attorney report? Isaac?
None for me.
Okay. Any other commissioner business?
This officially is now my last.
Only if this meeting ends, Rocio, right?
Oh no, next meeting I'll be in Mexico, so there's no way.
Atta girl.
You get two applause.
You can telecom in.
Thank you.
And the last item is business from the audience. You're still here, Denise? I'm not sure. Okay, adjourn.
Good night, Tony.
Good night, Tony.
Good night, Tony.